"Sorry, you're not invited." That sentence didn't come from a stranger. It came from my wife's brother, Kyle, his perfect teeth bared in a smirk that cut through the laughter spilling from the ballroom behind him. The ballroom where my wife, was already celebrating, dressed like a goddess in champagne silk, pretending I didn't exist. Behind Kyle, her mother Lorraine floated toward me, dripping diamonds, holding a glass of rose like it was a royal scepter. She didn't hesitate. Didn't even blink. "Get this beggar out," she snapped, flicking her hand at me like I was a stain on her dress. Two security guards in black suits stepped forward immediately, their shadows taller than me in that marble-floored lobby. I should have argued. Should have shouted. But I didn't. I just stood there, gift bag in my hand, the gold ribbon trembling between my fingers, as I realized, this wasn't some misunderstanding. This was deliberate. My wife had told them not to let me in. She hadn't forgotten to mention the party, or gotten the date wrong, or meant to text me but didn't. No, this was orchestrated. Planned. And the worst part? She saw me. Madison's eyes met mine across the room as she laughed at something the tall, smug man at her side whispered in her ear. She saw me, her husband, being humiliated in front of her entire family, and she turned her head away. She didn't move. Didn't protest. Didn't blink. I clenched my jaw and let the guards walk me out. Their hands brushed my shoulders, not rough, but firm enough to remind me, I didn't belong here. Not in the family I'd spent years financing. Not in the world I'd been stupid enough to bankroll. Outside, the night was sharp and cruel. The sound of jazz faded behind the heavy double doors, replaced by the empty howl of the wind in the parking lot. I stood there for a moment, staring at the glowing windows, at the silhouettes of people drinking, dancing, celebrating inside. My wife was in there. My wife. When I got home, the silence was deafening. I sat at my desk, pulled my laptop close, and started cutting the cords. The country club membership dues I'd been paying for them, gone. The $90,000 renovation payment for Lorraine's dream kitchen, reversed. The credit lines I opened under my name to keep her father's failing company alive, frozen. With every click, I felt something inside me harden. $222,000 worth of lifelines, severed in one night. By the time I shut the laptop, my phone was vibrating so violently it nearly slid off the desk. One missed call. 10. 40. 100. By the time I picked it up, the screen read, 133 missed calls. Madison. Her mother. Unknown numbers. All of them scrambling, panicking, realizing the rug they'd been standing on was gone. And then came the pounding at my door. Not knocking. Not polite. Pounding. Heavy, furious, violent. Whoever it was, they weren't here to talk. I froze in the dark of my living room, the sound rattling through the walls. My heartbeat felt like a drum in my chest. For the first time in our marriage, I realized something I had been blind to all along: Madison wasn't just lying to me. She was using me. And she wasn't even subtle about it anymore. Standing there, gift bag still in my hand like a cruel joke, I understood the truth: I wasn't her partner. I was her paycheck. And whatever was waiting on the other side of that door, I had a feeling it was about to prove just how deep her betrayal ran. The pounding grew louder, rattling the glass in the window panes. I didn't move at first. My instinct told me to wait, to let whoever it was wear themselves out. But then a voice cut through the wood, sharp, arrogant, and far too familiar. "Open up, Ethan. We need to talk." It was Madison. My wife. I swallowed hard, the weight of everything that had just happened pressing against my chest. I opened the door slowly, and there she stood, makeup slightly smudged but still dazzling in that champagne dress. Behind her was the tall man I'd seen at the party, his smirk intact even in the dim porch light. She pushed past me without asking, her perfume leaving a trail of roses and poison in the air. "What the hell did you just do?" she hissed, spinning to face me. I closed the door, eyes flicking to the man who had followed her in like he owned the place. He leaned against my wall, hands in his pockets, looking around my home as though he was inspecting property he already bought. "I don't know what you mean," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "Don't play dumb, Ethan," she snapped, her eyes blazing. "You canceled everything. My parents are freaking out. The bank already called them. Do you know what kind of embarrassment you've caused?" I let out a laugh that wasn't really a laugh. "Embarrassment? You mean like the kind I felt when your family called me a beggar and threw me out of a party I paid for?" Madison crossed her arms, lips curling into a sneer. "You weren't invited. That's not my fault. They didn't want you there. You always make everything about yourself." The word sliced through me, but I kept my gaze locked on her. "And him?" I asked, nodding toward the stranger still leaning against my wall. "Does he make everything about himself too? Or is that your new project?" For the first time, her mask slipped. Just for a second, her eyes flickered with guilt. But it vanished almost instantly, replaced with defiance. "This is Ryan," she said, almost proudly. "He's a friend." "Friend," I repeated, the word sour on my tongue. "Funny. I don't remember friends putting their hands on you at family events." Ryan smirked wider. "Relax, man. Madison deserves to have some fun. Maybe if you weren't so controlling, she wouldn't have to look elsewhere." My blood boiled, but I didn't move. I knew exactly what he wanted, for me to lose control, to swing, to snap. Instead, I let silence sit between us, heavy and suffocating. Madison stepped closer, lowering her voice as if she were giving me a chance. "Listen, Ethan. Just undo what you did. Restore the payments. My parents need that money, and you owe it to them after everything." I stared at her, hardly recognizing the woman standing in front of me. Her tone wasn't pleading. It was entitled. As if my entire existence revolved around keeping her world spinning. "I don't owe them anything," I said flatly. Her jaw tightened. "You're pathetic." I felt the word slam into me, but beneath the sting, there was clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a phase. Madison had crossed a line long ago, and tonight was the mask finally slipping. Ryan pushed off the wall, moving toward the door. "Come on, babe. He's not worth the energy." She gave me one last look, full of contempt, before following him out. No apology. No explanation. Just venom. The door shut behind them, and I stood in the silence of my own house, the gift bag still sitting on the table, untouched. The room felt colder than before, emptier, like part of me had just been stripped away. But beneath the heartbreak, beneath the disbelief, something else started to burn. Anger. Not the kind that makes you reckless, but the kind that sharpens you. The kind that tells you the game has only just begun. And for the first time that night, I didn't feel like the victim anymore. I felt like the storm they never saw coming. The house felt different after they left. Every shadow seemed sharper, every creak of the floorboards louder. I poured myself a drink, though my hands shook so badly half of it splashed onto the counter. I stared at the glass, wondering how I had become a stranger in my own life. Madison had always been good at twisting things. Whenever I confronted her about the late nights, the sudden business trips, or the secretive smiles she'd text to someone when she thought I wasn't looking, she had an answer. Always. She was tired. She was working late. She was texting her best friend, Ashley. And like a fool, I wanted to believe her. I wanted my marriage to be real more than I wanted the truth. But that night, with her smug friend standing in my living room, the truth was unavoidable. Something inside me snapped. I needed proof. Not whispers, not suspicions. Hard proof. I went to her closet and pulled open the drawer where she kept her handbags. Madison was careless sometimes. She thought she was smarter than everyone else. And maybe she was, until tonight. I found a small clutch she had taken with her to the party. Inside, alongside her lipstick and compact mirror, was a folded hotel receipt. The date was from 2 weeks ago. A weekend she had told me she was at a wellness retreat with Ashley. The room was registered for 2. And the signature on the bill wasn't hers, it was Ryan's. My chest tightened. I sat on the edge of the bed, gripping that slip of paper as if it were a knife. Every memory of the past year came rushing back, the cold distance, the nights she turned away from me, the unexplained charges on our joint account. She hadn't just been cheating. She had been living an entirely separate life. I opened her laptop. She was careless with that too, never bothering to log out because she assumed I wouldn't look. Emails, dozens of them, some disguised under work subject lines, but all filled with the same disgusting sweetness. Her words to him, words that used to be mine: "You make me feel alive. I can't wait to sneak away again. He'll never know." Every line was another cut across my chest. The more I read, the more I realized it wasn't just an affair. It was strategy. Madison and Ryan were planning things. Real things. Selling assets behind my back. Draining accounts slowly so I wouldn't notice. Even talking about when Ethan's out of the picture. I sat there, breathing hard, trying not to throw the laptop across the room. My wife, my partner, was plotting against me. And her family knew. That's why I hadn't been invited tonight. That's why they called me a beggar. I wasn't part of their world anymore. I was an obstacle. My phone buzzed again. Another call from Madison. I let it ring. Then came the texts, one after another. "We need to talk. Undo the payments. Don't be stupid." And then, finally, the one that made my blood freeze: "You don't want to start a war you can't win." I looked around the house, at the photos of us smiling on vacations, at the furniture I had bought, at the life I had built. None of it felt real anymore. It was all just a stage set for her lies. I picked up the hotel receipt again and folded it neatly into my wallet. Then I closed the laptop and locked it in my desk drawer. If she wanted war, she was about to get it. But it wouldn't be the kind she expected. For years, I had been the man who provided, who fixed, who kept the machine running while everyone else took and took. But tonight I wasn't that man anymore. Tonight, I became something else. Someone who had nothing left to lose. She came back the next morning like nothing had happened. Sunlight poured through the blinds, and there she was in the kitchen, humming, dressed in yoga pants and one of my old college hoodies like she owned the air itself. The smell of fresh coffee filled the room, and for a second, if I hadn't lived through the night before, I might have believed everything was normal. "Morning," she said casually, sliding a mug across the counter toward me as if she was some loving wife. "You look tired. Rough night?" Her voice was sugar, but I could see the venom behind her eyes. She was testing me. I took the mug but didn't drink. Instead, I placed the hotel receipt on the counter between us. Her smile faltered, just slightly, before snapping back into place. "What's this?" she asked, tilting her head. "You tell me," I said. My voice was calm, but every muscle in my body was screaming. She picked it up, glanced at it, and shrugged. "Oh, that. Ashley booked the room under her boyfriend's name. We went for a spa weekend. I told you about that." I stared at her. She didn't even blink. The audacity of her lie was so smooth it almost sounded true, almost. "Funny," I said. "Because Ashley texted me that same weekend, asking if you were with me. She was in Miami." Her lips pressed into a thin line. For the first time, she faltered. So what? You're spying on me now? Going through my things? Do you know how pathetic that is? I leaned forward. Pathetic is sneaking off with your lover while your husband pays for your family's lifestyle. Pathetic is smiling in my face while you're laughing behind my back with Ryan. Her eyes narrowed, sharp enough to cut glass. You don't understand, Ethan. You've never understood. You work, you pay bills, but you don't make me feel alive anymore. Ryan does. The words hit me harder than any punch. She said it so coldly, so unapologetically, like it was a fact, like it justified everything. I slammed my hand on the counter, the sound echoing through the kitchen. You're standing here in my house, wearing my clothes, drinking coffee made with money I earned, telling me you need another man to feel alive? You ungrateful. She cut me off with a laugh. Not a nervous laugh. A cruel one. Finally. There it is. The anger. The real you. You think all that money makes you a man, but you can't even keep your wife happy. My hands clenched around the edge of the counter. Every instinct told me to scream, to throw her out right then and there. But I stopped myself. She wanted that reaction. She thrived on control. So instead, I straightened up, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "You're done here." She blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? I mean pack your things. Today. This house isn't yours. The money isn't yours. And Ryan, I leaned closer, my voice dropping, he's not going to save you from what's coming. For the first time since this all started, I saw fear flicker in her eyes. It was faint, but it was there. She covered it quickly with another sneer. You don't have the guts, Ethan. You've always been weak. That's why I had to find someone stronger. I stepped back, letting the silence sit heavy between us. Weak. That word replayed in my head over and over, each time striking harder. She thought I was weak because I had given her everything. Not anymore. I turned and walked out of the kitchen, leaving her standing there with the receipt still in her hand. I didn't slam the door, didn't shout. I just left her with the weight of her own lies. Upstairs, I sat at my desk, opened the drawer, and pulled out the laptop. If Madison thought she could play this game and win, she was about to learn how wrong she was. The war had officially begun. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, calm, smug, untouchable. I kept thinking about how easily she lied, how casually she told me another man made her feel alive. The words gnawed at me like rust eating through steel. So I started planning. If Madison wanted a war, I would make sure she understood what it meant to be on the losing side. The first step was simple: control. I logged into every account we shared and shut her out completely. The joint card she loved to swipe on designer handbags, frozen. The online transfers she used to cover Ryan's bills, blocked. The hidden savings account she thought I didn't know about, I emptied it and moved every cent under my own name. By sunrise, she was financially paralyzed. When she woke up, she stormed into the office, phone in hand, face pale with fury. Why is my card declining? I just tried to get gas, Ethan. What the hell did you do? I didn't even look up from the laptop. I stopped financing your double life. You'll survive. Her voice cracked into a shriek. You can't do this. I need access. You can't just shut me out like I'm some stranger. I turned then, slowly, meeting her eyes. You are a stranger. And strangers don't get to live off me. She opened her mouth to argue, but before she could, the front doorbell rang. The sound cut through the tension like a blade. She froze, eyes darting toward the hall, then back at me. Her expression said it all, she knew exactly who it was. I got up and walked to the door. When I pulled it open, Ryan stood there, dressed in his smug uniform of a leather jacket and that infuriating grin. "Morning, champ," he said, stepping inside without an invitation. "We need to talk." Behind me, Madison rushed forward, placing a hand on his arm as if to calm him. Or maybe to show me where her loyalty really was. "Ryan, not now," she hissed, though her eyes never left mine. I folded my arms, keeping my voice even. "You've got 10 seconds before I throw you out." Ryan laughed, low and arrogant. "See, that's your problem. You think you can scare me. But I'm not here to play games. Madison deserves better. And I'm going to make sure she gets it." The audacity of the man made my blood pressure spike. He was standing in my house, talking about giving my wife a better life, using money that wasn't even his. I stepped closer, close enough to smell his cologne, the same one I'd smelled on Madison's clothes more than once. "Better?" I said quietly. "You mean living off my money while sneaking around like a coward? That's your definition of better?" His grin faltered for the first time. He shifted his weight, but Madison slid between us, her hands pressing against my chest. "Stop it, Ethan. You're embarrassing yourself." I stared down at her, my voice sharp. "No, Madison. You've been embarrassing us for months. Sneaking out. Lying. Parading him around while I've been paying for your family's champagne lifestyle. But that ends today." She sneered, her face twisting. "You're just bitter because you lost me. Ryan makes me feel wanted, not like some house ornament you drag to your business dinners. He sees me." Ryan smirked again, emboldened by her words. "That's right, man. She's not your problem anymore. Walk away while you can." For a moment, the urge to put him through the wall nearly consumed me. My fists clenched so hard my knuckles turned white. But then something inside me clicked. If I snapped now, I'd be giving them exactly what they wanted, proof I was the villain. So instead, I smiled. Cold. Sharp. Deadly. "Enjoy her while you can," I said softly. "Because everything she's been living on, every dollar, every luxury, every safety net, it's gone. And when it all comes crashing down, I'll be watching. From a distance. Untouched." The color drained from Madison's face. Ryan's smirk wavered. For the first time, they both looked uncertain. I stepped back, opened the door wide, and pointed out. "Get out of my house. Both of you." They hesitated, exchanged a glance, then walked out. Madison tried to keep her chin high, but I saw the tremor in her jaw. Ryan muttered something under his breath, but I didn't care. I shut the door behind them, the slam echoing like thunder through the empty hall. And just like that, the silence felt different. Not heavy. Not suffocating. Liberating. For the first time in years, I wasn't trapped in Madison's game. She was trapped in mine. The days after I threw them out were a blur of ringing phones and unanswered knocks. Madison tried every angle, sweet messages, furious voicemails, late-night visits. Her family bombarded me with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Even Kyle showed up once, pounding on the door, shouting about how I had ruined everything. I didn't answer. I let them scream into the wind while I watched the walls of their perfect little empire collapse. But I wasn't naive. I knew Madison wasn't the type to accept defeat. She thrived on manipulation, and she wasn't about to let her golden lifestyle slip away without a fight. It started small. I got a call from my bank saying there'd been an attempt to withdraw from an account only I had access to. Someone had tried to use my login from a hotel IP address. Then came the whispers at work, rumors about me being unstable, rumors I knew had Madison's fingerprints all over them. And then, the worst of all, a letter from her lawyer, accusing me of financial abuse, claiming I had cut her off unfairly. She was trying to flip the script. Paint herself as the victim. I sat at my desk with the letter in my hands, laughing bitterly. She thought she could outsmart me with lies? She must have forgotten, I had proof. The receipts. The emails. The records of every payment I'd made to keep her family afloat while she ran around with Ryan. So I made a decision. If she wanted a war, I'd give her a battlefield she couldn't survive. I arranged a meeting with my lawyer, Mr. Grant, a sharp man with gray hair and a colder smile. I laid everything out, the hotel receipts, the emails, even screenshots of her texts bragging about Ryan. Grant leaned back in his chair, impressed. She won't see this coming, he said. We'll hit her where it hurts. Publicly. And legally. That night, as if she could sense the tide shifting, Madison showed up at the house again. No Ryan this time. Just her, standing at the door with tears in her eyes. Ethan, she whispered when I opened it. Please. Can we just talk? I know I messed up, but we can fix this. Her performance was flawless. She even reached for my hand, her fingers trembling like she was some broken little girl. But I saw through it. I'd lived through too many of her shows. Fix this? I said coldly. You mean undo the lawyer you sent after me? Or maybe fix the part where you and your boyfriend plotted to drain me dry? Her eyes widened for just a second, and that was enough. The mask slipped. You went through my things, she hissed. The tears vanished, replaced by venom. You think you're clever, Ethan, but you're not. Without me, you're nothing. You'll be alone in this house with your bitterness, and no one will care. I stepped aside and pointed out the door. Then leave me to my bitterness. She stood there, trembling with rage, before storming off into the night. I watched her go, a strange calm washing over me. Because for the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't afraid of losing her. I was ready to burn the bridge entirely, and salt the earth behind it. And I had just the plan to do it. I didn't have to wait long for my moment. Madison's family planned another event a week later, a charity gala at the same country club where they'd humiliated me. They must have assumed I'd keep my distance, lick my wounds, and let them carry on as if nothing had happened. They were wrong. I showed up in a dark suit, not to beg for a seat at their table but to end the game once and for all. The valet's eyes widened when I stepped out of my car, and by the time I crossed the lobby, whispers had already spread through the crowd. They hadn't expected me. Madison certainly hadn't. She froze mid-laugh, champagne flute in hand, Ryan standing smugly at her side like he belonged to her now. Lorraine spotted me and swooped in like a hawk. You, she spat, her voice low but venomous. You have some nerve showing your face here. I smiled politely. Relax. I'm not here to stay. Just here to return something. I pulled a slim folder from inside my jacket and placed it on the nearest table. Every head nearby turned. Madison's eyes flickered with panic, Ryan's smirk faltered. What is that? Lorraine demanded. Proof, I said. My voice carried just enough for the nearby guests to hear. Proof of the hotel stays, the hidden accounts, the messages between Madison and her friend here. Proof that while I was paying for your lavish life, you were laughing at me behind my back. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Madison lunged forward, trying to snatch the folder, but I stepped back. Go ahead, I said. Show them your truth. Or should I? Ryan tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Madison turned on me, her mask shattering. You think anyone cares? You think exposing me will make you look like a man? You'll just look pathetic. A bitter husband who couldn't keep his wife satisfied. Her voice was sharp, cruel, loud enough for everyone to hear. But instead of sympathy, the crowd turned on her. I saw it in their faces, disgust, judgment, whispers starting like wildfire. She had played her part for so long, but now the stage lights were too bright. I leaned in, just close enough for her to hear. "No, Madison. I don't look pathetic. You do. And now everyone finally sees it." I turned and walked away, leaving the folder on the table. Behind me, voices rose, questions, murmurs, her parents scrambling to contain the damage. Madison's shriek cut through it all, raw and furious, calling my name. But I didn't turn back. Not once. When I stepped outside into the cool night air, I felt lighter than I had in years. For so long, I'd been the man who fixed everything, who gave and gave while she took until there was nothing left. But not anymore. The illusion was broken. As I drove away, my phone buzzed again, another call from her. I didn't answer. Instead, I tossed it onto the passenger seat and let it ring. She had chosen her war. And she had lost. For the first time, I realized the truth: betrayal doesn't break you unless you let it. Sometimes it frees you. And as the city lights blurred past, I promised myself one thing: I would never be her victim again. The fallout came faster than even I expected. The folder had spread through the room like gasoline on an open flame. By the next morning, half the city knew about Madison's affair. Her polished reputation was in ashes. Clients pulled away from her family's businesses, sponsors backed out, and Ryan disappeared as soon as he realized the money pipeline had dried up. She showed up at my house 3 days later, mascara streaked, hair a mess, no longer the flawless queen who'd smirked in my face. She banged on the door until I finally opened it. "You ruined me," she said, voice shaking. "You ruined my family. Do you feel good about that?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in years I didn't feel anger or pain. Just emptiness. "No, Madison," I said softly. "You ruined yourself. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences." She tried one last card, her eyes filling with fake tears. "We can fix this, Ethan. Please. We can start over. I'll change." I shook my head. "You don't even believe that yourself." Her face hardened instantly, the tears vanishing as quickly as they came. "You'll regret this," she hissed, before storming off down the driveway. But I didn't regret it. Not one bit. The divorce was brutal, but with the evidence I had, it was swift. She walked away with nothing but her clothes and the shallow pride that had driven her every move. Her family went quiet after the scandal, they had no power left to threaten me. And me? I rebuilt. Slowly, carefully. The silence in my home stopped feeling heavy. It started feeling like peace. The nights weren't filled with phone calls or fake apologies anymore. They were mine. Looking back, the betrayal hurt like hell. The lies, the humiliation, the nights spent wondering what I did wrong. But I came out stronger, sharper, and with one lesson etched into my bones: when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Madison was never a partner. She was a parasite. And parasites only thrive if you let them. So if there's one piece of advice I'd give to any man reading this, it's this: never ignore the red flags, and never be afraid to walk away. Loyalty means nothing to someone who sees you as a wallet instead of a partner. Because in the end, it wasn't her betrayal that defined me. It was my decision to stop being her victim. And I've never looked back.